I'm Min from PonderEd Education, and this is the starting of the lecture for thought process-based learning. And especially I'm going to focus on the learning because this is teaching is not really possible at this point. Before I go into the actual methodology, I'm going to give you some of the backgrounds of the brain evolution and education methodology evolution, because basically that the brain, as brain evolves, the methodology of the education co-evolves together. So in the reason that I'm dealing with this topic first before I start is that you will need to see yourself that which direction you are, which brain part you are using, because this thought process is different from simply learning from based on the understanding. So there are some specific differences in this brain usage of the brain, and that's why I'm trying to provide in terms of evolution for brain and the methodology of the education, so that you can clearly see that if you are really working on to develop the thought processes instead of just knowledge, learning the knowledge. And to begin with, if you watched the lecture before, the first lecture, that you remember probably that there are 4 different brain functions in the learning in terms of the education. So the first one is you are getting the knowledge with the understanding, and second one is goal-based, goal-oriented, that the learning. This is actual thought processes that you can use. And third one is curiosity-based, and the fourth one is the one that I'm talking about. Now, from this time that I made the slides, and I'm gonna, I'm not gonna upload to the website together with the lecture videos. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put right here as a slide so that you can actually watch and read them, and together with as I go. So this is the first slide that I'm talking about. Okay, so there are 4 different levels, and then today from this lecture I'll probably only be able to deal with the first one, the acquiring knowledge with understanding, because this is a preliminary brain function that begin with the brain evolution from the starting point. Okay, so let's explore this the understanding based knowledge building methods to see that what it look like. Okay, so first thing is that this is a very simple and very basic methodology in learning. For example, let's say you have apple and you eat, you are healthy, and the taste is good, and it gives you energy, and so that you can survive through and continue your life. And let's say you ate some poisonous fruit, then what would happen? You probably, let's say not you, if you have like a groups of members, and then one of your group member ate a poisonous fruit and either got really sick or died, then what would happen to others? Other people who watched someone got sick or being dead, then probably you will remember the fruit that has a poisonous one, that characteristic of the fruit, so that you can avoid it for your future. And in these processes, there are 2 different things in the brain. The first directly affected is death, so result of something that has been done. And second is the concept that fruit is poisonous. So you understand concept and result based on this linking this to the concepts. And this will increase your survival chances in the future, because you can separate something that you don't have to do, you shouldn't do, and something that you can do. Okay, so here's some together with this the survival-based learning, that there are 2 different another the way of a brain determining that what to do based on should and shouldn't, and right or wrong. All these things happens right here. So just like a black and white. This is good, bad, right, wrong, correct, incorrect, and it gives you energy, survival, or death. So this black and white kind of thinking pattern is based on the understanding-based learning of the brain. And this is a very, very basic preliminary brain function that has been built, evolved together with the brain. So this is the first level of the brain evolution. Okay. Now, this result to learn, I mean, if you wanted to really learn in this way, then there has to be one very straightforward rules that you can apply. That has to be connected with real life or directly connected with survival. Then it could be, you could adopt the knowledge very simple and easy. But let's think about in this case. You are the one that going out and then you fish. And you came back. Let's say groups of your members went out to fish, and then one of them died because that either got really bitten by a poisonous animal or poked by something like a stingray or something like that, got really, really painful time, or got even suffering from the dead or live. Now you came back into your home, and you have your probably family members and all the friends around you, right? Then now you have to deliver this knowledge, right? That which one, stingray is really, really dangerous, that don't try to touch it, or when there's some animals like a octopus poison with the poisons, you don't want to touch it. If you get bitten by it, then you're gonna die. You could die or something like that. But let's say you went to the fishing with all groups of members, and that thing happened, and then you came back with a fish that is edible. Now you are trying to deliver the knowledge to your kids or family members or whoever around you, saying it, we went in this way to the fishing, and we went to some certain spot to fish, and then we caught some of them, and one of our group member cooked tried to catch an octopus and got bitten, and then that has poison, so that person died. So you have to be careful with that octopus. When you are seeing them in the water, don't try to even get near it. So you taught like that to your kids. Then let's think about how your children will learn. They will say, okay, if they are not interested in where the fishing spot is, and they are not interested in how to fish, they are not gonna really focus on and then trying to learn from that knowledge that you are delivering. But if the person you are delivering that, saying this octopus type of characteristic of the octopus, like with blue spots in it or blah blah blah, then the kids will remember that, because if the kid wants to go out on the ocean to swim, so that the kids don't really get bitten by this the octopus. So when you're trying to deliver this in terms of the knowledge, then learners' interest is having biggest role in accepting the knowledge. Because of that, sometimes knowledge you're trying to teach that where to fish, if your kid doesn't really have interest in it, then it's not going to work. So basically, when you teach based on understanding, then what has to be done is that it has to be connected with real life, so that they can have some of the interest, or they can see that the outcomes actually visualizing inside of their brain. And it either that or it has to be connected with survival directly. If they say, if you go that place, you will die, then they're gonna avoid it. That place has some animals that are hunting human, then you don't wanna go there, then they will avoid it. So in this way, that when it is really connected to the real life and or survival, then the learner will be able to learn from the knowledge that you are delivering. Other than that, if they don't have interest, then it's not gonna, the effectiveness will drop down significantly. As the understanding-based learning and the teaching is kind of like a baseline of the education, and when people are learning and teaching in this way, because it is really directly related to the survival, now what happens is that more the knowledge you have, survival chances goes up. Higher the survival chances. So basically what that means is that you collect some of the information from out there, now you will share with others. And others, when they are collecting information from out there, they will share with you as well. So that increasing survival chances are higher and higher. This is where collaboration and getting together and moving toward in the same direction works. And then some people actually the emphasis on those type of activity for the human is because of it is from very, very deep down of the brain, that evolution that was from the beginning. But actually, if you falling into that situation, and then you are kind of think together like, yes, we have to get together and we have to move toward to the same direction, then your life is not going to be really, really comfortable or easy, free life. Because the reason is simple. The interior human society is, there's a competition based on. And the competition is not like the fighting with the in the war or something. It is more likely happening inside of the brain. And if you see that the one company, if they wanted to survive, then they have to compete and they have to out-compete other companies so that they can survive. Otherwise, they'll be the one that die out. Okay, so in the collaboration only happens when people, the leaders, want something out of the from people that under the pyramid structure. Because in one company, that if you are a worker inside of the company, then you have to work so that they can get the money. In the company get the money. And then most of the money, where does it go? To the leaders of the company. But in the company to company, they have a severe competition. Well, of course, inside of the pyramid, there is a severe competition as well. But anyway, I'm gonna come back with this topic one by one when it comes to the next lectures. So now, the brain evolution is not only connected together with this educational methodology, teaching and learning. There's another thing, emotions. Because let's say you got bitten by a poisonous animal, and then the poison goes through your body, then your body will have to fight against it. And as your body getting damaged, then what happens? You will get weak. Getting sick means that literally being weak, and then cannot move your body, and then you cannot really do anything much. And as your body is really fighting with these poisons or venoms or whatever it is, then your brain, what happens is having less power. Brain doesn't work that much because it's all the energy is spent on the fighting poisons. And this situation, your brain will interpret as a depression or weakness and sadness and something like a moody or something like that. because you are in the about the line of the edge of the death or live. So this is where the emotion is born, like a sadness or depressed, will make your interior body, either because of that your interior body is getting sick, now your brain doesn't work, and because of that you are worrying about the your life, and the emotion started building up. But next level of the emotion has a little differences. That is the one that I'm going to talk about when goal-oriented education, which is next lecture, because that now emotion is built up, and then there's an emotion function is there. Now emotion can control the body in the other way around. Okay, but that's next story that I'm going to deal with. So this is the emotion, because the emotion is one of the part involved in this brain evolution. Now what happens is that if you are from the beginning, what happens is that now if you are if the emotion is totally depending on your success of your life. If you are able to get some food that you want, and then it'll be cheerful, and then you'll be happy and satisfied. If not, then you'll be sad and depressed and something like that. So this is a basic emotional evolution, that evolution of the emotion, together with the brain, the learning, understanding-based learning and teaching, and the emotions, and built in together with this. Okay, and the collaboration and everything is just mixed up together in the inside of the brain. Now, when you have like if you cannot so in terms of like a brain development, if you are watching these lectures, then you came here to make your brain to move actively. Then now you have to think in this way. If you have a situation like uncontrollable emotional stages or something like that, basically being angry and then emotions are going up and down, then what that means is that your learning pattern is based on the understanding. Then this lecture probably to get into the real study will for you will have some difficulties in there. In that case, you need one-on-one or the one-to-one with the classes in together. You have to train from the beginning that with the guidance. So because the whole these lectures that I'm providing is just a core, and I'm gonna provide also some of the add-on methodology as well. But if your brain is more likely focused on the developed only the level of understanding-based learning, then with these materials, even that you will have difficulties in the following. In that case, you have to look for some actual classes that I'm offering, or you have to request consultation. Okay. Anyway, this is a very, very low level of the brain function, and where when beginning of the brain, when it is evolved, then there's emotions and also the methodology of the education co-evolved all together. Okay. Now, as I mentioned that as you share the knowledge, you can increase survival chances. And there's one more. Because the sharing knowledge is more likely increasing the survival chances. Now, that's only when you are having same knowledge, similar knowledge. For example, let's say you went out there, you explored new places, and then you grabbed a new knowledge. Then you can share them, and then you can get another knowledge from others, so that you can build the knowledge more and more, and then later on you can use it. But problem is, when you don't want to risk yourself, then and you still need knowledge to increase your chances of survival, then what happens? you're gonna be asking the knowledge from the knowledgeable people. So who has more experience? For example, let's say now you are fishing for a living, and there are another person who are fishing more and who has been fishing many more years than you, and then that person knows many different spots in the fishing. To learn about it, then you have to ask for the knowledge, and it's not going to be the free. You have to pay for it. So you pay for it, and then you get the knowledge. Then what happens now? In this case, you are in terms of the knowledge that you are basically under the person. The person has knowledge, who are delivering it has more power. So now society, the ranking system is born because of this. So this is not human only system. Okay, like a king has some of the power, and then he leads the group, and then other people will follow. This is you see as a human activity, but this is not only the human behavior. Wild dogs in the Africa, they have a bloodline of the female. I believe it is wild dogs or hyenas. I don't exactly remember, but that was on the BBC documentary. And then what they have is that the female is the leader, and then the female, when gave a birth of the female baby, then that will take up to the next leader position. And from the narrator that I watched from the documentary, that what they were explaining is that when even the female, the young baby is very little, the father own blood of the little female baby, the father cannot even look at the little female baby's eyes directly. Already ranking system is made. So human, like a king and queens, and having society structure and then leading the society group, is just like other animals based on this understanding. Because of the understanding based learning and teaching method, you have structures of the pyramid, and now what happens? Then you have to obey whoever has more knowledge. Okay, something like this is also can be found in the insects, queens of the bees and ants, and there's some fighters in the bees and ants society, and there's workers. There are workers, and these are separated, and they do add what they were just given, what they were born with the inside of the brain. But I don't really personally say that queens and from ants and bees are really something that like a human society structure, like in the wild dog cases, because being a queen, and they have to lay eggs all the time, and I don't think that is the one more likely something that be called as a queen, because that doesn't really have a power of leading groups. It has its own function as just giving birth. Right? So that's one of the evolutionary processes that having social structure of the pyramid types of the society structure of the human, not just the human, for all these animals, like some of them are based on the physical strength, but human is more likely on the brain, like in the capacity of the knowledge or something like that. Now, if that's the one that's just affecting on the individual's life, but still it is a choice of the individual. If you chose to live the life like that, it's yours. There's nothing else that anyone else can actually get involved in. But when it comes to the education, now it changes. Now, the impact on the education for this understanding-based learning and teaching method is very severe, because in these days that you will see that what students in the school learning, there are knowledge and knowledge and knowledge. There are more than human brain can handle. Let me give you one example. This example is back in time when I was in Columbia University. I was doing biochemistry, and because of that, the department that I worked on was in the medical school building. And I have met many medical students, and what I heard, they were burying themselves in the book for like days without sleep to go through all this knowledge. And so think about it. If comparing the knowledge with them and me having the knowledge, they have more, right? But why do they stay up all night trying to understand these things and sometimes trying to memorize? If they are interested in certain disease or certain part, then probably their study will go through easier and easier, and then fun. They'll have fun while they're learning it. But if they don't have interest to go through the education system, what they have to do? They have to memorize. Simply memorize, 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 more and more. Because of that, now simple memorization doesn't really provide brain power. And at the same time, what happens? Now, in their writings, for example, let's say writing is more depending on the knowledge, amounts of knowledge that you have inside of the brain. For example, if you are writing about fishing, if you haven't fished at all, then you probably cannot write much of the fishing. You will say just go out there and using gears and then fish. And let's think about interior world people writing that with this given knowledge. Then what will happen? Writing will be pretty much all the writings will be similar, because the knowledge that you can shuffle and then reuse it is limited, and others will as well. But let's compare with myself and medical school students. Medical school students, because they digging into the knowledge a lot more than me in terms of the medical field, that if I write something about the disease and they write about the same topic, their writing will be different from me. They have more knowledge, and their writing will be looked a lot more information in it. But when you are in the school, you are not comparing with someone who majoring in the medical field and with someone who majoring in the art. What happens in the real education system? You are comparing with the medical school students to the medical school students. And think about entire world, how many medical school students are there? Probably millions of millions. And their knowledge, they're learning pretty much all the similar knowledge in the given field. If it is a diabetes, probably they have a similar knowledge about the diabetes. Then let's you gave them to write about something about diabetes in all around the world of the students. What would happen? Then, because they have similar amounts of the knowledge, the writing will be similar. Because basically they have all these knowledge levels similar. Only thing the differences coming in is like probably verb differences and adjectives and something like that. All this terminology will be just a reshuffling, how it is reshuffled. And because of that, In this case, there are like a similarity checking service in there in the university that many students writing falls into the high percent of the similarity, 30, 40%, even sometimes go 60, 70. Now, this happens even though they wrote their writings, I mean those essays or whatever, by themselves. And there's one example I can give you. One of the faculty member the university that I teach, actually tested and gave us some of the information, the result from the testing. What he did, what he, she, I don't know what the faculty did because I only received an email. I don't know that faculty exactly. According to the emails that I got, says that the faculty tried to write the cover letter by own self. So the faculty wrote the cover letter just sitting there on his or her brain, and then uploaded it to check the similarity. And then the results was kind of shocking, that because the similarity was over 30%. 30%? That's what I remember. This is what was the thing that they're telling me from my viewpoint, is that because of the knowledge limitation, and then now because of the lack of a brain, the thought processes, what happens they could only do is that they can shuffle the knowledge and then reshuffle it and utilize some of the different ways, but mostly that the knowledge that the people are using are similar. So you cannot really make a significant differences with this method. Okay? And next is that this method, just like what I explained in the slides before, because when you're looking for the knowledge, then you have to look for the knowledge holder. For example, the person who is experienced the fisherman, if you wanted to have some information from the fisherman, you have to ask for it, to pay for it, and you have to do all this stuff. But let's say I try to learn from all the fishermen to have some of the information to give it to me that he has from his experience. But let's say somehow I go like, hey old man, you're wrinkled and then you are old and then you have a lot of experience, but wouldn't it be time for you to now get rest instead of going out and then fishing more? And somehow, let's say, that makes that person upset emotionally. Then what would happen? Even though I ask them next time, okay, here's a payment, could you give me the information? Then probably that person is, say, if got really upset about it, then not gonna transfer the knowledge to me. If I double the price, if that emotion was hurt more, then I won't have any chance to get the knowledge. I lose the chances. Basically, what you have to do is you have to please them. You have to obey them so that you can get the knowledge from the beginning. But literally, you are making yourself as a slave to them. You can find similar examples in probably around you as well. Some people in the school, the parents, because they want their kids to be taken care of by the teachers, some actually give the money or something that the teachers want, even though teacher didn't ask. And later on, some of the teachers asking for those type of the kind of bribing kind of things, but generally teachers, they don't even expect it, but these people automatically goes and provides something and try to please teachers for those reasons, for their kids to learn the knowledge. Okay? Because of that, pyramid structure is getting stronger and stronger and solidly built. Who has knowledge have more power. And think about it. If the teacher in the beginning, probably in the generally that in the beginning, they didn't really request any money or anything from the parent. But what will happen is, because parents comes in and automatically provides what, try to please teachers, and what happens is teacher now saying it, I'm more valuable, my teaching is more valuable, then they have to pay more or something like that. And then because of that, now later on, some of them, when they getting into the greedy stage, they will ask parents to provide something. But legally it's not allowed, I believe, so I don't think it's right now what is happening, but still there are possibilities. Okay, so now if you don't want to be enslaved by these knowledge holders, then there's only one way you can do. You have to go out there and you have to find the fishing spot by yourself. Then what happens? You have to risk your life. Well, in these days, the safety is a lot more, the safety equipment have developed and then provide a safer environment. But 10, 20 years, 30, 100 years ago, probably there were many people who died out there as they tried to find a new fishing spot or new things. Even if you think about Columbus, who found this new North America, that when he sailed out, he probably knew that he could die because of it. Now, when you're trying these new things, it is now gamble. You have to, it's turning into the gamble. Now you have to risk, you have risk, and then you, once you are successful, then the reward is huge. If you fail, then the penalty is also huge. So it's gamble. Because of that, gambling is one of the biggest issues in these days. The reason is because of this. People don't want to take a risk, but they wanted to get the huge reward. And gambling area, gambling places, they actually provide those environment. You people who were falling into the gambling addictions, they don't really see that the small amount of money in the beginning is issues, because they thought sometimes I could get out of it. If I lose money, I won. But because of that, the reward is huge, you gradually increases the betting. And because of this gambling is doing gambling, going sailing out and finding fishing spot by myself, or learning from the knowledge holders. If you wanted to, from the brain, that the functions, that evolution, that this gambling, that if your brain automatically has this information that if you can find something new spot, then you are gonna live life totally different way. And this is a basic instinct of the brain and the very, very first level of the brain function. So people falling into the gamble, they gradually increase betting without without knowing it, without realizing it. So this is the reason that once you fall into the gambling addictions, that it's going to be very, very difficult to get out. Okay. Now, that's the side effect of this learning and teaching method based on the understanding. Now, how about the impact on the teaching, education, educators side. Well, first level of the educator, the part is that the checking students the capability of the brain function as a knowledge. This is solely because that the teachers cannot really provide thought process based knowledge building. They just deliver the knowledge. Try to make it connections and then try to deliver it and then hoping for the increased efficacy. But the society they demands the students or graduates who has the thought processes, who can think, the thinker, literally, so that when the project is given, they can think it through, find a method, and then so that they can develop and then apply the project so that the company or whatever that the society is, the goal they can achieve. For that, you need a brain. And that's the society demands. But exam only cannot really provide this separation. So, for example, let's say you provide the exam for the university students and then graduates have 4.0, the highest the knowledge. That doesn't mean when they come into the work, they could actively engage in the projects and then actively carry out the project. That doesn't really match. So now what the education field did, now they add on another layer of the evaluation, which is writing. So writing, because writing itself is without thinking, writing cannot be really done. So that's how, the way of checking the thought processes for sure. But problem is that, as I just mentioned the couple of slides before, when students' writings are all similar, then there's no way for the teachers to see the differences. Students, what they do is just shuffle all the knowledge and then change some adjectives and some paraphrasing and rephrasing it, whatever the method they use, they just try to change the words, change the sentence. Because of that, when the educators try to evaluate it, they are all the same. Knowledge levels are all the same, and their expression are all the same. There is a little bit differences in there among the students, but what I'm saying is in the bell-shaped, in the average. Well, that's what I'm mentioning about here. Okay, and generally for the educators to provide these exams is writings is because to see where the students' thought process are missing, so that they can develop a new strategy to fill the gaps for the students to develop thinking processes. But because the similarity and all the knowledges are similar level, now teachers and professors cannot see that how to approach it. There's no differences, and they cannot really develop the new strategies. So from my viewpoints, that I've seen when I was in Korea, that I've seen that one of the professor came into the class and then reading the English textbooks and translate into Korean, and that was a class. Some of the professors, from what I heard, is having like a 10-year-old notebooks, and then they never actually improve it and they use it. Same knowledge over and over. And from my viewpoint is that they probably in the beginning when they started teaching, that they probably they were enthusiastic, and then they in the teaching, so they probably try to develop more and more and more the ways to deliver this all the knowledge. But problem is, as they do, they cannot really see the differences. And now they cannot do anything. It's the same old notebooks, and they use it over and over. Now, the education now is not education anymore, it is business. You're just delivering the knowledge and get the money. So basically, if you want to have a fishing spot learned, then you have to pay for it. Okay, that's it. Not really having brain development or having the students to develop their own way of thinking so that they can make a judgment based on their analysis of the situation, their the data collected, and based on making the judgment. That's not really teachable in these days. Now, this is what the understanding-based learning and teaching method, and this is all the animals, all the animals with brain, especially that the brain function is the lowest one. That is the one based on this. And if you looking for the knowledge, then you will be the one being slaved by others, because it's not they're trying to slave you. Sometimes they do, but it's more likely because you are looking for the knowledge. Okay. Now, next video, lecture video will be on goal-oriented education, learning and teaching method. And for now, I'd like to ask you to think about these two differences. When there's a goal is given, then your brain will start developing the ways to find to achieve the goals. Basically, thinking. Your brain will start to think. But there are two different ways. The first one is that, let's say you went out and then you tried to fish, and then you started thinking what to do and how to fish, how to catch the fish, and you develop a new methodology. Then actually this is your brain developing it. But if you go out there and then look others and then see that how other people are fishing, and then you try to adopt it and try to follow it, this is not going through your brain. It's just simply like a unconditioned reflexes. Like when you touch hot surfaces, you retract your hands automatically. Exactly the same thing. You just learned and you just try to mimic it. This doesn't require thought processes. So this is their brain function that has just simply memorizing it and understanding it. There's a thought process brain part. It's a separate part. And I'm gonna deal with this goal-oriented education next time, and you will see that how to make this. So basically, to start with something, sometimes you need to go and watch how others doing it, and while you are doing it, you have to make the knowledge, that the learning from the knowledge, and you have to make that going through your brain so that you can develop the thinking skills, thinking process. Okay, so that will be the next topic, and I'll meet you there.